Power Up Gaming, the only destination you need for retro video games, consoles, and accessories. Want access to exclusive specials? Like us on Facebook.
So I was hoping to make this a little earlier today, but ran into some issues with my computer, ended up screwing it up, spent the whole day trying to work on it. So what we have here is a PS3 system that came into us. We've never worked on it before. We're red discs, no problem at all. Apparently the customer said it was really dirty inside, so the customer actually spent some time, opened it up, cleaned it up, and put it back together. And apparently now it doesn't accept discs. It was reading discs apparently beforehand, but now that he's cleaned it out, it's not working quite right. So what we're going to do is take a quick look at it, hook it up, see what it's actually doing, and then see what we can do to actually get it working again. So this one's a little bit of a mystery, but we'll see what we can do. So the first thing we're going to do is actually just power it up and see what it's actually doing or lack of doing. So again, I don't have the output on the TV quite working, but I don't think it matters for this one because we're not going to see anything on the TV. Not expecting it to actually take in discs right now anyway, so it's making the sound like it wants to accept the disc, which is a good sign, but it's not taking the discs. Customer says they didn't actually open up the drive, which makes it sound like a ribbon cable problem or something, but we'll take a look at it. This is a model, so this is a model with a built-in drive board on the actual motherboard itself, which means there's multiple drive cables that actually connect to the board. One of those is probably backwards or not connected properly or not connected to the drive properly. And I think that's where we're going to find the problem. So hopefully it's a nice, easy fix, and we can get this customer's system back in their hands without a very expensive repair. Just going to turn up the mic because I did notice my last recording didn't come through that loud. So hopefully that's a little louder for everybody. Okay. So, good news is my job's a little easier. Customers removed a bunch of screws and didn't put a bunch back, so there's only one screw to remove on the bottom here of these security screws, which you can't see because I didn't have the camera aimed properly. So there was only one screw of the security. Normally there's 4 on this model. This is a 450 DAA drive. Takes a 450 DAA laser as opposed to the 450 AAA laser. There's a few different models, but as I mentioned in the other videos, the drives themselves, actually, you know what, I won't use that because it's loud. I've got a manual screwdriver. As I mentioned in the other videos, really there's the 2 different lasers, or laser assemblies. So 450 AAA is actually universal to all of them. So if you're looking for a laser to work in every single one of these slim PS3s, the 450 AAA laser is the one to go with. If you're looking to replace the whole drive caddy, then you need to actually replace it with the either the 450 AAA, which is the one with the 3 security screws across the front, or the 450 DAA, which is the one with the 4 screws across the front, and that'll give you the proper ribbon cables and to actually hook it up to the system. So we're going to remove all these screws on the system here, and like the security screws, there's already a few of them missing, so it makes my job easier. When we put it back together, we'll probably give them all the screws. I've got extras kicking around, just because I like to have all the screws in the system. Just me being picky. Okay. So, as expected, system's nice and clean. Obviously, because that's one thing the customer did. Okay, so customer did not use the same screws that the system came with, which is extremely common when a customer actually does do the cleaning of a system. Usually all the screws are in the wrong place or different screws. So the drive itself looks like there's a little warp to it, like he has taken it apart, but we'll find out very shortly. So we're just going to remove the power cables on it. And these are the actual cables we're going to take a quick look at. So all three cables are precisely hooked up. I don't see a problem with any of them not being hooked up. So my first indication of one of those not being hooked up correctly was false. So it's not going to be as easy as I originally thought. We'll see if maybe one of those cables was pulled out from the other side. Maybe the actual ribbon cable, which I don't think has anything to do with the loading of the disc. Maybe it's not in properly underneath. I don't know. So I'm just taking a look. I can't show you on camera here, but the ribbon cable is just underneath here. And it looks like it was in properly, so I can't see that even being a problem. Now, from looking at this, I can tell you that the customer has absolutely had this drive open. There's normally a piece of tape over the gear mechanism here, which this thing really doesn't have any reference to it. I've never seen it actually taken off. It's just a white piece of tape, but that's always in place, and that's actually not there. So the customer saying that they didn't take the drive apart was probably not 100% truthful, but I'm used to situations like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open this up. Maybe it just needs an adjustment to the actual drive. Could be that one of the gears from the top side is actually fallen out of the drive when the customer took it apart, and it's not sitting in place, which means the actual assembly is recognizing the disc is there, but it's not actually loading. Easiest thing may be to actually grab a replacement drive and find out which pieces are actually missing, but we'll deal with that in a minute. So just removing the required screws to get this thing open. So we can take a better look at it. There's two little catches on the side here, and we'll take that off. So from here, it's not going to tell us anything. That's that centerpiece, which we'll throw in the center there. So on this one, there's only one screw at the front here. Sometimes there's one, sometimes there's two. From here, the reason there's only one is because there's a little catch over here. So we'll just take that off. Okay. So that's the actual loading mechanism there. The gears all look like they're in a line there. That's hooked up. That's to the motor. That's to the ribbon there. That's hooked up to the actual motor, spinner motor there. Everything appears to be in place. I don't see where there's anything out of place on this thing. What we'll do is we'll just remove the top cover. So this is the only other piece that really falls off of the drive. And that all appears to be in place. So if somebody's cleaning it, sometimes that falls off and people don't know where to put that back to. But everything appears to be in place. In some cases, what will happen is there'll be a disc in there, and people will take it apart, open it up, and then the actual mechanism won't actually reset. So what we may find is when we actually hook this up now, because I've actually taken it all apart and everything's reset, it'll actually just start working. So that's kind of the hopes at this point, is when I actually hook this system back up again, that it magically just starts working again, now that everything is more or less lined up. If it doesn't work at that point, I'm going to point my attention to this guy right here. This is the piece that actually triggers the loading mechanism and everything to actually for the disc to go in, for the loading mechanism or the arms to actually grab the disc, for the load mechanism to actually drop into place and actually grab the disc there, and for the motor to actually sense it when to actually spin the disc and actually fire up the laser and everything. So if there is a problem, it's probably going to be there. And in this one here, this one's different than the other videos I've actually had. I'd mentioned before that holding the drive caddy in place. Sometimes there's 2 screws, sometimes there's 4 screws. All the other ones I've had in videos have been 4 screws. This one's 2. So what I can't do in this scenario is actually hook up this drive without this black plastic piece in place. Because if I do, this here will actually just flop around and it will not read properly. So what we're going to need to do is, unfortunately, throw some of this stuff back into its proper positions. Which is a little more tedious than if it actually had the 4 screws, because then you can just quickly hook it up. Okay, so we have that. All the cables are actually showing there, so we can actually hook that up. And then what I will do, the clip's holding it in place actually, so I don't need to do any more than that. So we'll grab the system. So this is what happens, unfortunately, when people try and go budget and try and do some stuff themselves. I mean, on one side of it, it's great for us because it creates business. But, I mean, people are paying for time. So if they think it's one thing and I start with one thing and it ends up being, you know, step number 6 that we end up going to, they're paying for the labor. So it's not exactly flat rate. If it takes me 2 hours, then they pay for 2 hours of labor. If it takes me 10 minutes, then great. They pay for 10 minutes worth of labor. So we'll see where this lands for them. But the fact that they said it worked perfectly beforehand and then just kind of stopped after they cleaned it means that it's usually a user error. They said it was reading perfectly beforehand, so we'll take the customer's word that the laser's actually working. What we want to see is that it's actually loading disks properly. That's step number 1. Once we get it to that point, then at least we know we've got it to the same position that the customer had it in beforehand. So I won't even hook up video for this test. Let's turn her on, grab a disk again, and this is actually a Vietnamese copy of a game, which is not for this region, but again, we're just testing the loading mechanism. And look at that. Loads it perfectly. And you know what? Laser seems to be reading it fine. If it wasn't reading it fine, what would actually happen is, A, it would either not spin, which means the laser itself is not firing, or the actual drive motor or the worm gear is not working properly. Or B, if it was reading it but it was having a real hard time, what you would actually hear is it would actually spin it up, and then it would slow down. You'd hear kind of a clicky noise as the laser's trying to focus, and then it would actually unload the disk and then load the disk again, and then it would attempt it again. After that, it actually stops the disk, and then the system stops trying to read it at that point. So what we're going to do is just make sure it comes up with something on screen. I'm actually curious on what it does with this Vietnamese game to see what it actually comes up with on screen. I'm pretty sure that PS3s are not region locked, but we'll find out in 2 seconds here, or I will, because unfortunately you won't be able to see. Could help if I went to the right input. And I'll try and get my video capture working so you guys can actually see what I see on the screen. Okay, so we're up at the screen here, and it's showing Darksiders. So it's reading disk perfectly. So yeah, customer did take apart the drive, just didn't reset it properly. I mean, part of the cleaning process and everything else. So in other words, the customer will just get a drive reset fee tacked on there, and just pay for the time and labor to actually take it apart, reset it, diagnose it, and put it back together, and then just our paperwork and everything. So relatively inexpensive, easy fix, but that gives you some information on how we go about doing that. So actually, I guess we'll stick around and I'll put her back together, and you'll see the process on that one. So this one I will mention also. So this is a little bit different. These ones are a complete and utter pain in the ass. If you ever have a system that isn't loading disks properly, there's a good chance it's one of these drives. This is one of the last of the slim systems, and these lids here are tin. So if you have any kids that are actually carrying one of these systems in a backpack, this cover here sits right, oops, let's get it the right way. So it sits directly right there. Okay? So what happens is if you have that in a backpack, right underneath here, oh sorry, on the other side. So right underneath here is a big fin. And what happens is if you have that in a backpack, and you're pushing, so it's being crushed between books and everything else, this fin here actually pushes into the drive. And because this is thin tin, it actually puts a crease in the actual case here. So when it actually puts a crease in the case, the crease actually puts a crease into the top of the drive. So the metal actually pushes into the actual drive. And what happens then is the actual mechanism that actually spreads out to actually grab the disc can't do its job. So what happens then is you get a terrible noise, you get problems with the disc ejecting, the disc loading, and also the disc actually grinding on the mechanism. So if you ever get those kind of scenarios where the disc won't load right, won't eject right, and you get grinding noises, things along those lines, usually it's this cover here. In some cases, we can actually go through and put it on a flat surface and actually flatten out the metal. In some cases, it's just beyond repair, and the crease is just way too bad, and we have to actually replace it with some other spare covers that we have. In some cases, we can swap it out for one of the heavier metal ones. They are interchangeable, so if we have those, then we swap it out with the heavier ones. If we don't, then we swap it out with another tin one, and you just have to be careful. So that's another side repair job for that one. But we'll get this back together and we'll finish off this video. Okay, so we'll power this one down. Actually, get rid of the disc. Okay, so again, disconnect the power on this thing, pull the power supply, and the reverse again. So unfortunately, we do have to take that drive and all the ribbon cables and everything off again. Nice thing is it's already, oops, top magnet. Escape me. Okay. So the nice thing is they're all actually through there already. So when you're looking at these, what I tend to do is from factory, they're actually located exactly like that. I like to actually fold that underneath. It seems a little more secure. So that tab goes there. There's two tabs on this one there, just like that. There's the white piece here, which just slides into place, and that holds all the ribbon cables there. So on the back side here, one screw, I don't need that one. Goes on the back side there, perfect. On the inside here, there's one screw because there's actually a clip on this side. And again, you can't see that. So there's one screw here because there's a clip on the other side, so we don't have to worry about the other side. And you can't see that because it's underneath the logo, but there is actually a screw right there. So I apologize for that. Damn logo. Okay. Make sure we get that in there. And then from there, the flimsy top cover. Being very, very careful with it. Because again, it is like tin. I don't even know why they would have ever put anything that flimsy on there. On the front, you want to make sure that it's nicely tucked underneath the tabs and around everything there. There's one more screw that goes in the top cover right there. It's a wide one. Okay, and then there's two more screws that go into the back corner. That holds the top cover down to the plastic on the bottom. And as I always say before, you're just tightening all these screws to the point that they're actually tight. There's no point over tightening them. Absolutely no point in any of these systems to over tighten anything. I mean, if they've taken this thing apart, they've done a pretty good job otherwise. All the other cables seem to be in place. I don't know. I don't know what they took apart, what they didn't, but it does look to be pretty clean. So, relatively good job there. It's just they cost themselves some money. In the end, it's going to cost them about the same price as if we actually did the cleaning. And who knows if they actually changed the thermal paste in the end. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. So, if they brought it to us, they could have had us do the work, warranty it, and had us change out the thermal paste with top quality thermal paste too. So. And they would have had all the screws back in the system the first time. Okay, so I've talked about it before, and actually I kind of rushed through it. The ribbon cable at the bottom here is tedious. Very, very tedious. And this is going to be really, really hard to do it on camera, but I'm going to attempt to. So what you do is you pull up the connector here. And yeah, this is going to be next to impossible. And what you're going to try and do is feed it in. Trying not to get my head in, trying to get it on camera. Trying to do 10 things at once here. Thought I almost had it there. Okay. So you're going to try. My arm's just not long enough. Okay, let's try with the other hand. We're going to attempt, there we go, to feed it in. Kind of hold it down with your other finger while pushing in the connectors on the side. And I know I can't really show it to you on the camera there, but if you look, it's perfectly straight. There's a little bit of gold showing from the actual pins. The connectors that are pushed down on the sides, the little side connectors, and it's sitting nice and flat. From there, you just lay it down flat, and you've got these 3 ribbon cables on the back here. And just to show you, zoomed in, these only go in one way. And if you actually do the ribbon cables the way I showed you, they will actually line up exactly where they're supposed to. So they'll only go in one spot. So we'll get the drive lined up here, the front. Okay. So the one that goes off to the side goes into the first slot here. The next one goes into the next one, so the gold one in the middle. And then the wide one goes into the wide slot. That's it. Drive is hooked up. There's a black screw that holds the drive down. Perfect. And then we have the power supply going in. Then we have the 2 screws that hold the power supply back down, which don't appear to be the stock ones that were in there to start with, but are close enough. I don't know where the stock ones went. Stock ones normally have a little bit of a ring around them, but these ones screw in perfectly and they hold it down, so I'm not going to search for new ones for those ones. And then from there we have the top cover that goes on from, actually zoom out. So the top cover comes from this side, folds down nicely. And then we have all the screws, which I've already mentioned. They're missing a bunch. So I'm going to find the replacements off camera for the ones that are missing. So the one that never needs to come off is this one here. It looks like they removed the rubber foot thinking that there was a screw there, which there isn't. That's where the hard drive goes. So underneath here is a screw, and if you remove that screw, this cover slides over, and then the hard drive actually slides out. So there is no screw there, obviously, because it would go right through the actual hard drive. All the other corners and all the other spots that you see there, including underneath the warranty stickers normally here, have screws. So it looks like I have 2 rubber caps, so I'm going to throw the rubber caps on the back side there. And I'll throw those 2 plastic caps there. And then I'll go through on a hunt on my parts bin there to try and find the remaining screws and the security screws in the front here, and we'll close her off. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see what the next video is going to be. Thanks. Talk to you soon.